Hey guys, so how many of you have heard about Polkadot before? Can anyone raise your hands? Okay, wow. So can you really deploy smart contracts on Polkadot first of all? Does anybody know the answer? Okay, so what do you mean? Do you mean parachains, right? Or are you speaking about West End? So today we are gonna deploy smart contracts on Polkadot, but actually it's gonna be one of the parachains called POP network, which provides a seamless way to deploy smart contracts on Polkadot. So Polkadot is like the next generation technology to build your applications. So it also provides shared security to its parachains and economic security as well. And we won't the topic won't be much about Polkadot, but you know how you can first deploy your contracts here. So some general idea we need to think about is uh, what is Polkadot actually? Polkadot is like the relay chain which secures different parachains, correct? And what is Paseo? Paseo is like a relay chain testnet, and there are also some system chains like Bridge Hub, Asset Hub, which holds all the assets. For example, you might know about US USDT or USDC. They are actually issued on Asset Hub. Okay, and so why these terminologies are important is because there is some demo that I'm going to show you, so which you can relate to. And speaking about ink contracts, right? You can deploy ink contracts on not just POP network, but any network that has pallet contracts included in their runtime. So yeah, this is the general idea. uh, Relay chain and parachain and testnet relay chains. So like in the hierarchy, right? So when you speak about cross chain transfers, this hierarchy is very important, or it's very easy to get confused, very easy to get confused when you're forming instructions, XCM instructions. So all these POP network, the asset hub, and all other parachains are like the children of your relay chain. In this case, because we are working on testnet, right? So it's Paseo, but in a mainnet, this can be Polkadot and all its parachains like Moonbeam, Hydration, Bifrost. So the next slide is how do you get started when you're coming from Ethereum ecosystem, right? So you have these wallets like MetaMask, but how do what are the wallets that this ecosystem provides? So there are some popular wallets here like Nova Wallet, Sub Wallet, Talisman Wallet. Okay, so these are some community funded wallets, and there is also this thing called Polkadot.js extension. So it's not a typical wallet, but it's just a signer, so that it doesn't have this full-fledged functionality of a wallet. But yeah, these are the wallets you can use to start building on Polkadot. So the first thing, okay, you have a wallet now, but what do you do then? So in the case of Paseo, right? Paseo is like a relay chain testnet of Polkadot. So you need to get this Paseo tokens, okay? And since we are going to work on ink smart contracts, right? So POP network doesn't have its own native token. It uses dot token. It's the relay chains tokens. So we need to acquire those tokens first. So I have shared all the resources. So if I go to, so there is this hackathon Bible that we have shared with you guys. And I mean, this is the hackathon Bible is more refined version of this. So there are those links provided of how you can acquire those tokens. Basically, you just this is the Talisman wallet I'm using. So just a minute. Okay. So you can make create an account here, copy your address, and it can be any address because the address conversion works behind the scenes. So it isn't like necessary to find a specific network address so that you can get those tokens, but you just paste your uh, address here, and you can get the tokens. And the next step is actually uh, bridging those tokens, because as I said, right, Paseo doesn't have its own native token. It uses the token. It uses dot token basically. So you need to go to this interface and just bridge your Paseo from dot to pop network. And the second thing is, okay, pop CLI. So pop CLI is, like, it bootstraps, all your, how you can, create a new contract, how you can test your contracts, or how you can deploy your contracts, even if it might be a local testnet, or it might be a devnet or a testnet. So it can help you to, it can make the experience quite seamless. So what are the steps involved when, like, these are pretty generic steps that you all might be familiar if you're like coming from some different ecosystems, maybe Ethereum or maybe Solana. So the contracts which we are going to write, we are going to write in some domain specific language called async. And obviously the next step would be to, you first build your contracts so that you can generate the, contract, the wasm file, and the metadatas. And one thing that developers often forget is, testing their code before, launching it to mainnet. So you can test it in your devnet, or you can test your contract on parachain, so it can then be, mainnet ready. And finally, you can have some nice beautiful interfaces, or you can use the ones provided by, the community to interact with your contracts. So I mean, I won't be writing any code here because we just have some few minutes left, but I'm gonna show you a demo, a small demo. So this is one of the contracts, which is called XCM. So XCM stands for cross consensus messaging, and XCM are these. Does anybody have question? No, right? Okay, so XCM are these instructions that, run on different, which can run on the same chain, or some different chains. For example, if I want to, transfer some tokens to some other person, maybe I would use something like a balances palette to transfer, correct? But you can even do it with, something like XCM instructions. So you can form an XCM message, and these instructions will execute on the same chain, and you don't even have to, use something like a balances palette. So this is the contract, and you need to be, a bit familiar with Rust to get a hang of the syntax here. So the main thing I want to show you here is this message called transfer through XCM. So transfer through XCM is like the call which you make. And so when I showed you the diagram, right, of the hierarchy between Paseo and the parachains, so this would help in understanding the code here. So maybe we'll, start looking at this code from bottom up. And so what we are doing is, here there is a function called XCM execute here, which we are not why we are using execute here, because there are two instructions. One is XCM send and one is XCM execute. You would use send when you have to, send an instruction to other chain, but in this case we want to execute this instructions locally. So that is the reason we are using the specific function called XCM execute. And as you can see, XCM is like a version language, so there are different versions like v2, v3, and v4, but currently we are using the v4. And as you can see, I have given the argument as a message here. So now the message part is important. So if you look at the message, right, the message is basically we are crafting an instruction here. So what would it do is it will withdraw the asset, okay, and it will withdraw the asset from the contract, because when you deploy a contract, right, you can think of it as an account which can have a balance. So your contract needs to have a balance, or else your contract wouldn't, the call wouldn't be successful and the contract would be reverted. So what we are doing here is we are withdrawing assets. It's from the contracts account, okay, and if you need to, execute instructions on any chain, right, you need to buy some execution time on that chain. This is something isn't free here. In EVM, like there might be gas, right? But in here, it's all about wait. So you need to wait is basically the amount of execution time in picoseconds. So you need to buy some execution time, and you need to pay some fees, right? So what are we specifying here is that we are buying execution time here, okay, and we are paying fees in the asset we are trying to transfer. And for simplicity scenario, we are specifying the weight as unlimited, so there is not like a bound on it. And the next instruction is deposit asset. So deposit asset is basically depositing asset from the, you know, there are also these registers involved, holding registers and stuff, but deposit asset, at the end of the day, what it does is just deposit the assets in the, beneficiary's account. So we haven't we haven't even used something like a balance transfer logic or something. These are just XCM instructions that are executing on the same chain, and they are transferring those balances. And another thing you need to take care of here is, now we have provided asset everywhere in these instructions, right? So what are these assets here? Okay, so if you look at this line asset, we have specified something like location parent. And why is it location parent? Correct, because as I mentioned, we are deploying our ink smart contracts on a network called pop network, which is a parachain of of Polkadot, ideally Paseo, because it's a test net. So location parent means we are referencing the Paseo chain, Paseo relay chain, and we want to transfer basically those assets. And the value is how much amount of tokens you need to transfer. And the beneficiary is who is going to receive. So network can be anything like, you know, in this case it can be POP, but for this case it isn't necessary to just specify the network, because you are on the same chain. So you just need to specify the receiver. and and the thing is, if you think about what's the distinction between locations and junctions. So if you recollect that diagram, that hierarchy that I showed you between Paseo and that relay, Paseo and the parachains, right? So when you say parent, right, you go up the hierarchy, and when I say junctions, you go down the hierarchy. So this is what is going on here, and this is how you get the asset, get the beneficiary, you craft an XCM message, and then you execute the XCM message. If this XCM message was to be executed on some different chain, we would be sending this instructions to a remote chain, correct? So now what we can do is, we can try uh, try run, because I have already uploaded this contract here. So so this is my account, okay, and basically this is the contracts UI, and this is my account. And we were dealing with something called transfer through XCM, right? And this is on the POP network. So if I go to Polkadot.js apps, okay, I can go here. So there is this test Paseo and parachains, right? So it has the Paseo relay chain and all its associated parachains. But currently I'm concerned about POP network. So I just click on the POP network, switch the endpoint. So we are on Paseo network now, and what we need to do is, we need to transfer funds using XCM, okay? So these funds, as I said, would be sent from the contract account, and as you can see up here, I already have 30 Paseo tokens. So now I would just select a receiver. So maybe first let's check some balance. Maybe we can send this to this wallet here, and I just copy the address, and I put it as it is 0, okay, and I paste it here. So this is my beneficiary, okay, this is the same account which we saw here, correct? And now what is the amount we need to transfer, correct? So our contract currently has 30 tokens. Maybe let's try sending 5. And you can see, right, before even I was, entering the amount, we had this something called contract reverted. So basically, it's it's querying the RPC and making sure whether this call would be successful or not. So as I enter the amount 5, it says the call will be successful. Okay, and ref time and proof size are just, as you can see, the amount of computational time in picosecond, and which is like what I said about weight and the storage space that you need. So for this contract, since it's a simple contract, we can, just go with the defaults provided here, and then we can try calling the contract and see if, if we can successfully transfer the funds through XCM. Maybe let's try 10. So I'm calling the contract now, and it would take some time. Oh, do I have an internet? Maybe my internet is not so good. Yeah. So now you can see the wallet that I mentioned earlier. So this is the Talisman wallet, and it's just asking me to, approve this request. So I'm gonna approve it, and hopefully this works. So as you can see, the call is successful. But let's check our balance. So as you can see earlier my account did not have any balance, but now it has 10 Paseo tokens in it. So you can see how with just an XCM instructions, I'm just, transferring assets within the chain. But this is just the start of it, and there are many possibilities, that can come with this, and we want you to, build on those possibilities. So some of the examples, that can be is like, uh, the examples that I can give is maybe try executing, some uh, XCM instructions on some remote chain, or, you use some different XCM instructions that we have provided in the docs, and I think you would be good to go. So just a minute. Okay, so now we have spoken about ink contracts, right? But maybe you want to deploy Solidity contracts. So currently on West End Asset Hub, there is this palette called Palette Revive, which can help you do that. So if you are keen on deploying your Solidity smart contracts, Palette Revive is the way to go, and we have provided you all the resources that are present in the Hackathon Bible. And to be honest, Pal- West End Asset Hub is not the only place where you can deploy. Polkadot has like 100 plus parachains, and some of those parachains have Palette Ethereum and Palette EVM included in the runtime. So these are also some chains that you can target if you are a Solidity dev. Or if you need something more challenging, maybe write your own custom palette, or you know make your own roll up or something like that. And if you have any questions, you can you can always visit our booth. We are there till the hackathon, and this is the link to the hackathon Bible, which would be very helpful for you to develop on Polkadot and its parachains. So you can scan this QR code if you need it. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions?